I'm actually going out to shoot some wildlife, but I somewhere lost my wildlife setup. So I'm searching for it. Is this for sure not this big Sigma and A6600, because I'm recording on A6600. So I guess it's something else, but I don't know where is it. This is too big. If you want to go casually without preparation, I think this setup is too big. So there should be something else, something smaller. Where is it? I'm already prepared, but where is the camera and the lens? Maybe it's already in my pocket. How so? Oh yes, it is. It's in my pocket with the hood on and with the camera. And this is equivalent of this one. This one is 150 to 600 and this one is 100 to 300, but it's on micro four thirds body, so the crop factor is 2x, which means it is actually 200 to 600, so equivalent of the big one on a full frame camera. So this one on APS-C is around 225 to 900, so the reach is a bit better, although with the camera it is 2.5 kilos, and for sure you cannot put it in your pocket even if you got the deep one. And this thing is 770 grams camera plus the lens without the front cap, and the lens itself is 550 grams. So it is really lightweight. It got really good image stabilization. I was really surprised by that. And I can put it without a cap in my pocket because it sits like that in the pocket, so it doesn't touch the glass. Actually, you have to empty your pocket first, and then I can just pull it out of my pocket and start shooting. And with this one I have to get it wrapped on my neck, so I guess the axe time maybe is a bit faster, but this is so light. I can put it in my pocket, I can ride my scooter, my bike, or whatever, and have this in my pocket all the time. And whenever I need to do anything with this, shoot some photos, it is always in my pocket. It is so very versatile setup. So it is really small and versatile, although if it's still too big, you can just make it smaller, putting hood like that, or just removing the hood, and basically you can put it in any pocket. The camera plus the lens, which is equivalent of 200 to 600 millimeters. Really nice. And I was a little bit concerned about the quality of this lens or the whole combo. This Panasonic GM5, which is already 6 years old, so kind of old technology, not the best autofocus and micro four thirds sensor, but the size advantage is so big that I risked buying this. And there was some kind of promo on Amazon, so it was, I think, around less than 400 euros. So a really good deal, although the Suez Canal was stuck, so delivery time was 6 weeks. But when they unclogged it, it was delivered within 10 days, I think. So since it was stuck in the channel, I haven't got too many opportunities to shoot with this one, although I went to the same place when I was trying Sony 200 to 600, and I was able to approach both raw deers and cranes with this one like much easier. So I've been able to almost touch the crane when having this camera, opposed to really big wide Sony lens. So even though the reach of this is 1/3 shorter, because on an APS-C Sony and big Sigma is 900 millimeters and this is 600 millimeters equivalent, I've been able to get better close-up because I've been able to get closer to the animals, which is quite surprising actually. And I would show some example photos, although I haven't got really good photos of the wildlife, actual wildlife, but I'm kind of impressed with the photos from the zoo trip and parrot house trip. So this is so small, and this is Sigma 16mm for Sony APS-C. It is a little smaller than the whole setup. And this is another APS-C lens, which is Sigma 18-35, and actually Sigma is bigger than this 100-300, which is 200-600 equivalent. And Sigma is much heavier. So really small. And I must say, I think it's the best lens I bought this year. I got a few. Image stabilization is very good, although when I tried it at first, I've been using aperture priority, so there is no way to limit shutter speed on this camera when you are shooting aperture priority. So it was setting the shutter around 640, maybe even faster. That's why my first photos shoot with this, especially in a zoo trip, they were with ISO 3200 or 1600. 1600 is still okay with micro four thirds, but 3200 not really, although you can remove the grain in post, but you lose a lot of details. So especially when I was shooting birds in the zoo with lot of feathers, then with higher ISO you get worse quality. But I'm really surprised how good optical quality of this lens is, especially combined with this really old body. But yeah, I'm impressed by the results. And I was a little bit afraid about the image stabilization, but it turned out, when the next day I've been shooting parrots in the parrot house, or however you call it, and it was quite dim there. So it was, I'd say, it was low light situation. So micro four thirds is not the best thing for such scenario. Although it turned out that you can shoot really sharp photos with this lens with shutter speed of 1/30 of the second, and 1/50 or 1/80 is just like 90% chance you would get a sharp photo. But with 1/30 of a second, sometimes the parrot moved, so I've been able to be stable, but the parrot moved, so it was really blurry on the picture. But when the parrot was still, I've been able to get a sharp photo even of 1/30 of the second. So really impressed with the stabilization. And this body does not have stabilization, so it is only optical stabilization of the lens. And since when extended to 300mm, it is still not very front heavy. So if I've got my fingers here, it is balanced. I think it's easier to get a steady shot with that lens. Regarding the image quality, I'm really impressed. And regarding to the build, it seems to be splash and dust resistant, so not weather resistant. Although this body is not weather resistant, so it's not a big case. But I shoot some photos in a small rain and I haven't got any issues. And regarding the build quality, there is only one button which seems to be a bit flimsy, this image stabilization button. There are no other buttons. I would like to have a manual and autofocus switch, but there is none, so you have to switch this in the body, although there is a dial here, so it's not a problem. And I guess another con is that the rubber on the zoom ring is really sticky, so not sure it's visible, but there is a lot of dirt on it, so it's like a dirt magnet. So if I got it in my pocket and I got some dirt in the pocket, or there is a dirt in the air, the dirt sticks to the zoom ring, and so there is a lot of dirt here. It's like every groove of the zoom ring got some dirt particles. But a part of these two things, that the flimsy button and the sticky zoom ring, the zoom action actually is really smooth, at least now. So I'd say it is really nice and budget friendly setup for the wildlife photography. You were able to buy this camera some time ago on eBay for 30 bucks, although now it's 300 bucks because it's so popular. It's the smallest camera when you can exchange the lenses, so it got really popular because actually the image quality versus the size is really good, and you got set of really nice lenses for this micro four thirds system, so it became a hit. So I think Panasonic should release GM6 with a 20 megapixels sensor. This one got 16 megapixels, so the con of this body connected to this lens is that this lens is capable of much better image quality than this sensor can produce. So also you got room for upgrades if there would be a better body. Also you can connect this to Pro micro four thirds bodies like newest Olympus, newest Panasonics, but they are much bigger, so I'm not sure I would be able to fit them in my pocket, but I guess I would try, since there is a way to rent the newest Olympus at least. So I would try it, but I'm actually quite impressed of this combo, and since it is really pocketable, I'm taking this whenever I'm having a scooter trip. If there is an opportunity to shoot some wildlife, I can just take it out of my pocket and take almost immediately some shots. So really nice, and I think it's also good for scouting. So when you get to the new area and you want to scout for the wildlife, it's better to take this for scouting, to see when the animals live, when they actually eat and how they behave with a small setup. And then when you know all that stuff, when you done the investigation, then you can take the big boys and the height and set up yourself in the height. So actually really versatile. I haven't got too many actual light-up pictures shot outside to show, but I was impressed by the pictures shot in a zoo, especially when I've been shooting birds of prey in the zoo. The wire net was really dense, so I expected that it would be just wire on the photo. Since I was shooting just from the really close distance from the wire, it was just blurred, and there was a haze effect, but you can remove the haze in post, and actually the level of details from the bird's feathers is really surprising and amazing with such a small combo and such a cheap combo. So at the moment I think it's like 800 bucks for the whole setup, although you can get this one cheaper, especially if you don't buy it online. If you got it second hand, you can get it locally. It might be 100 or less bucks, so there is a chance you can get this setup for 600 bucks, and this setup produces really nice photos. So on the photos from the zoo you can see some haze effect from the wire. So every shot has been shot either through the wire net, some kind of the fence, or glass. So you can see some reflections in the glass, and some wire nets were really dense, like that small of the eye of the net. I'm surprised that photos turn out to be really detailed. And then in the Parrot house, it was really dark, so I set the camera to maximum ISO of 3200, and some of the shots are really grainy, although I removed the grain in post from some of them. But if you remove the grain, then you lose some amount of the details, so it's a trade-off. But actually, I've been also surprised how steady the image stabilization is and how good the photos are. So there will be some examples. And the shots shot outside, there were just random shots when I was walking, and I've seen a bird, so I shot it. And actually, the results of such random snapshot are also kind of impressive. Regarding the optical performance, I guess maybe the only complaint might be that there are some chromatic aberrations if you shoot wide open, but you can easily remove them in post and they are not that pronounced. So if you really pixel peep, then you can see them, and it's only wide open. And if you're shooting against the bright sky, then you can see them. Any other scenario, the optical quality and the image quality is really good. There is also Olympus 200 to 400, but this Olympus is much more expensive. It's much heavier and a bigger, although the Olympus got a fit to connect the lens to the tripod. But it's not a big con of this one that it does not have the tripod collar, and you cannot mount it on tripod because it's too light. And I'd say it's best for scouting, although you can use this setup as your main setup and you would get really nice results. So this could be a main setup. For me, it's a setup I can put in my pocket and have it always with me, and it would be really nice for scouting, although I guess I would use this as the main setup also. But when I'm prepared for longer shoot, I guess I would use Sigma and A6600 because it performs a bit better in harder lighting scenarios. But this one, I'm really surprised how good it is. And there will be some example photos with probably some comments written on them. Cheers, mate.